The clock hits 11:58 p.m. The house is quiet. The world slows down. Outside, the streetlights hum softly. Inside, you sit alone on the edge of your bed, scrolling, zoning out, worn down from a day that felt more like survival than success. You wonder, did I even accomplish anything today? It's a familiar feeling, isn't it? The exhaustion of living on autopilot, days blending into each other, a life moving but not necessarily progressing. But here's the truth. What separates people who grow from those who stay stuck isn't talent, intelligence, or even luck. It's this one small, powerful ritual. They pause. They take a moment at the end of each day to review their wins and prepare for tomorrow. Think about that for a second. While most people collapse into bed under the weight of the day, high performers stop and reflect. They don't just live their lives, they study their lives. They ask, what did I do well today? What mattered? What can I carry forward into tomorrow? And that simple act, done consistently, changes everything. Take Sarah, for example. She was a mid-level marketing professional in London, constantly overwhelmed, always behind. Her days ended in chaos and her nights in anxiety. Until one evening, she decided to write down just 3 things she did well that day. Just 3. That tiny shift sparked something profound. She began to see her growth. She spotted patterns. What energized her, what drained her, what deserved her attention. Soon, she wasn't just reacting to life, she was designing it. This isn't about being perfect. It's not about having the perfect routine or crushing every goal or waking up at 5 a.m. with monk-like discipline. It's about building a bridge between today and tomorrow. Reviewing your wins means giving yourself credit, something most people never do. And preparing for tomorrow? That's how you create momentum before the sun even rises. Why does this matter so much? Because in a world obsessed with chasing what's next, we often forget to honor where we've been. But your journey deserves recognition. Your daily effort, however messy or imperfect, deserves reflection. Without it, you risk waking up one day with a successful career and a hollow heart, wondering how the days slipped through your fingers. This video isn't just a motivational push. It's a blueprint, a real human guide to help you reclaim your days starting tonight. We'll talk about how to see your own growth, how to create small evening rituals that lead to massive personal power, how the mind responds to reflection, and how elite performers prepare for success when no one is watching. You'll learn that celebrating your small victories isn't arrogant, it's necessary. That preparing for tomorrow isn't overthinking, it's investing. That the most powerful time of your day isn't when you're in motion, but when you're still enough to learn from yourself. You don't need a big breakthrough to change your life. You need a small moment of honesty. Just one pause, one breath, one evening spent looking in the mirror and saying, I tried, I showed up, and tomorrow I'll do better. This is the formula for sustainable success. Not flashy, not dramatic, but real, raw, transformational. So tonight, as the world winds down, give yourself the gift of clarity. Let's explore how the simple act of reviewing your wins and preparing for tomorrow can help you unlock a version of yourself you haven't even met yet. Because your future isn't waiting for you out there. It's being built by what you choose to do. Tonight, Part 1. Why reviewing your wins matters. It was a rainy Tuesday in Manchester when David sat alone at his kitchen table, a lukewarm cup of tea in front of him, his laptop still open, blinking with unread emails. Another long day behind him. Meetings, deadlines, a few rushed conversations, and 100 thoughts swirling in his head. He had worked hard, so why did he feel like he had achieved nothing? This is the quiet crisis so many face, not just in Manchester, but in New York, Berlin, Los Angeles, and every corner of the world. Progress is happening, but it often goes unnoticed. Effort is given, yet rarely acknowledged. Real wins, moments of growth, strength, and breakthrough, get buried under the weight of what's next. Most people are doing better than they think, but they're moving so fast they never stop to see it. And when you don't see your own progress, you start believing you're stuck. What you don't acknowledge, you don't value. And what you don't value, you eventually abandon. This is why reviewing your wins matters. It's not a luxury. It's a necessity. It's a habit that grounds you in reality, the reality that you are trying, growing, overcoming. Without it, life becomes a blur of unfinished tasks and unmet expectations. David wasn't lazy. He wasn't failing. He was simply disconnected from his own effort. That disconnect steals joy. It robs you of the confidence that you're moving in the right direction. But here's the truth. When you start reviewing your wins, even the small ones, you begin to rewire your brain. You shift your mental spotlight from what went wrong to what went right. That's not ignoring problems. That's training your mind to build momentum. Our brains are wired to detect threats. That's why it's so easy to remember mistakes, failures, and criticism. But growth? That has to be intentionally noticed. The most successful people don't have fewer problems. They just make a habit of celebrating their progress. Oprah Winfrey, for example, ends each day by listing 5 things she's grateful for, even if one of them is simply, "I made it through." That's not soft thinking. That's strong mindset. When you build a habit of recognizing progress, you form what psychologists call a success identity. You stop feeling like someone who's barely surviving and start seeing yourself as someone who's steadily advancing. This shift in identity doesn't just change how you feel. It changes how you act. You show up with a new kind of energy, a quiet power. Back to David. After one particularly draining week, he decided to try something new. Just 5 minutes a night. He didn't buy a fancy journal. He didn't follow a complicated system. He grabbed a notebook and wrote down one simple question. What did I do well today? At first, the answers were hard to find. His mind defaulted to failures, but he pushed through. I answered that difficult email calmly. I made time to check in on my sister. I didn't quit, even when I wanted to. These were small, but they were real. Within a few weeks, David noticed a shift. He was still busy. Life was still demanding, but now he felt anchored, empowered, aware that he was indeed progressing. When you recognize your own effort, you generate self-belief. You don't need a boss to tell you good job. You don't need the world to validate you. You become your own source of energy. In the fast-paced world we live in, whether you're in the UK, the US, Europe, or anywhere across the globe, this internal validation is priceless. It creates clarity, it builds confidence, and it drives consistency. So tonight, when the world quiets down, don't rush to sleep. Don't just let the day disappear. Pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, what did I do well today? Write it down. Say it out loud. Celebrate it. Because when you review your wins, you don't just remember, you reinforce. And what you reinforce grows. This is how transformation begins. Not in a single leap, but in small acknowledgments that stack into unstoppable belief. Part 2. The psychology behind reflection and momentum. Not long ago in the heart of Amsterdam, a young woman named Elise found herself stuck in a silent battle. From the outside, her life looked polished. Steady job, active social life, apartment filled with books and plants. But on the inside, she was quietly unraveling. She couldn't explain it. Nothing was wrong, but nothing felt right either. She was exhausted, anxious, and constantly questioning if anything she did really mattered. Then, one night, after breaking down in tears for no reason she could name, she began searching for answers. What she found changed her life. It wasn't therapy or a new career or some life-altering event. It was a quiet, simple practice backed by science. Reflection. At first, Elise didn't believe it could work. Sitting down at night with a pen and notebook felt childish. She wasn't a journaling type. But she gave it 1 week. Each evening, she wrote down her thoughts, her actions, her emotions. She started small. What did I do today? How did it make me feel? What did I learn? And something remarkable began to happen. Within days, her chaotic mind started making connections. She saw patterns in her behavior. She noticed which moments energized her and which ones drained her. But more importantly, she began to see herself. Not the version the world saw, but the one who was trying, learning, growing. For the first time in months, she felt in motion. What Elise experienced wasn't just emotional, it was neurological. You see, the human brain craves coherence. It constantly seeks to organize experiences into meaning. But without reflection, your brain runs in circles. You wake up the same, repeat the same actions, and wonder why nothing changes. Reflection activates your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for planning, decision-making, and growth. It literally strengthens the neural connections that turn experiences into wisdom. It's how learning becomes transformation. But reflection alone isn't enough. It's the type of reflection that matters. Negative rumination, replaying mistakes, obsessing over failures, traps you. But purposeful reflection, the kind that asks, what did I do well? What did I learn? How can I grow tomorrow? That fuels momentum. It's like lighting a torch in a dark room. You start to see the path you're walking and where it leads. Think of momentum like a train. At rest, it takes tremendous force to move. But once it starts, every small movement adds to its speed. Reflection is that initial push. When you pause to understand your day, your mind begins to carry that insight forward. You don't just stumble into tomorrow. You build it with intentional energy. Elite athletes use this principle all the time. After every game, they review films, not just to see what went wrong, but to celebrate what went right. Why? Because the brain remembers what you emotionally highlight. If you review failure, you expect more failure. But if you review success, you prime yourself for more of it. It's psychology, it's biology, and it's power. Now, apply this to your life. What if every night, instead of numbing out with social media or collapsing under stress, you sat with your thoughts? What if you treated your day like a lesson? Not a perfect one, but a meaningful one. What if, like Elise, you gave yourself permission to notice your own growth? You'd start walking through life with more clarity, more certainty. You'd begin to trust yourself. Because the more you reflect with intention, the more you start to feel momentum, real, lasting momentum that doesn't depend on external circumstances. It comes from within. Reflection isn't just a feel-good habit, it's mental training. And like any training, consistency matters more than intensity. 1 moment a day, 10 minutes at most. That's all it takes to spark a shift that echoes through everything you do. So tonight, wherever you are, London, New York, Paris, Nairobi, take a breath. Grab a notebook or open a blank screen. Ask yourself, what did today teach me? Where did I grow? What moment made me feel proud, no matter how small? And write it down. Because the brain remembers what the heart chooses to reflect on. And when you reflect with purpose, you don't just survive your days, you evolve through them. Part 3. Turning small victories into big confidence. There was a time when James, a young software engineer in Dublin, felt invisible, both to the world and, more painfully, to himself. He clocked in and out of work like a machine, delivered projects, met deadlines, and never caused problems. But he wasn't rising. He wasn't being noticed. And worse, he started to believe he wasn't doing anything worth noticing. One evening, sitting alone on the bus ride home, he overheard someone on the phone celebrating how they finally spoke up in a meeting. That small, seemingly ordinary win struck him deeply. It reminded him that somewhere along the way, he had stopped giving weight to his own efforts. His small victories had become background noise, and as a result, his confidence had eroded without him realizing it. The truth is, we're often waiting for big breakthroughs to validate our worth. Job promotions, awards, applause, recognition from others. But confidence doesn't grow in those rare public moments. It grows quietly, privately, through the consistent acknowledgement of small victories. The moments you showed courage when no one saw. The times you got up when no one was cheering. The days you stayed committed when quitting would have been easier. These aren't small. They're foundational, and when you start recognizing them, your confidence shifts from something fragile to something deeply rooted. Psychologists call this the success feedback loop. It works like this. When you recognize a small win, your brain releases dopamine, a chemical linked to pleasure and motivation. This small reward reinforces the behavior, making you more likely to repeat it. Over time, this builds momentum, and momentum builds belief. Confidence isn't magic, it's biology, and it begins with noticing what you're doing right. James decided to try something different. Every day, he would write down 3 small victories. He called them his quiet wins. They didn't have to be impressive, just honest. I stayed calm during a stressful client call. I helped a junior teammate without being asked. I went for a walk instead of scrolling on my phone. Within weeks, something shifted. He started speaking up more at work. He volunteered for projects, not because he suddenly became more talented, but because he remembered his own value. This principle is universal. Whether you're in London, Toronto, Nairobi, or Sydney, your confidence doesn't come from the outside. It grows from how you talk to yourself when no one's listening. When you recognize your effort, when you honor your progress, you stop waiting for someone else to tell you that you matter. You begin to show up like you believe it yourself. That's the kind of confidence that doesn't waver under pressure. It's earned, not given. Let's be real. Life doesn't hand out trophies for everyday resilience. No one's going to applaud you for resisting self-doubt or showing up tired but determined, or choosing patience when anger was easier. But those moments, they matter more than most people realize. And when you start celebrating them, your inner narrative changes. You stop identifying with your weaknesses and start reinforcing your strengths. The danger is that when you ignore your small wins, you lose the very fuel that builds momentum. You tell yourself the lie that unless it's huge, It doesn't count. And that lie keeps millions of capable, brilliant people from stepping into their power. But the truth is, success is not built on massive, dramatic moves. It's built on the back of micro-actions, quiet decisions, daily courage, and a relentless willingness to notice your own growth. Tonight, think back on your day. Did you face something you were afraid of? Did you stay kind in a difficult moment? Did you do something that your past self would be proud of? Write it down. Speak it aloud. Let it echo. Because when you celebrate your small victories, you are not inflating your ego. You are training your mind to believe in your potential. That belief, nurtured every night, becomes confidence that doesn't crack under pressure. That's the kind of confidence that walks into rooms already knowing its worth. Not loud, not boastful, but grounded, certain, unshakable, and it all starts with honoring the wins no one else sees. But you do. Part 4. Preparing for tomorrow with purpose. In the stillness of early evening, when the world begins to slow and the rush of the day fades, there's a sacred opportunity that most people overlook, a moment to shape what comes next. But too often, people end their day in autopilot. They reach for their phones, scroll mindlessly, and slip into sleep without a single thought for the day to come. Then they wake up reactive, overwhelmed, already behind. But not because they're lazy or undisciplined, it's because they never learned the quiet power of preparing for tomorrow with intention. Consider the story of Ava, a single mother living in Glasgow. Between raising her 2 sons and working a full-time job, her days were a constant blur. She never had a minute to herself, and each morning felt like a fire drill, rushing to get the kids ready, scrambling for her keys, gulping down cold coffee in the car. Her life wasn't falling apart, but it wasn't coming together either. It all changed the night she read a simple quote online. "Tomorrow starts tonight." It struck her in a way nothing else had. That very evening, she did something small. She laid out her clothes for the next day and wrote down 3 things she needed to get done. It took her 10 minutes. But the next morning, it felt different, calmer, quieter, more in control. That small act, done with purpose, shifted her entire rhythm. This is what preparation does. It moves you from chaos to clarity. When you take a few moments each night to reflect on what's coming and set your intention, you reclaim control over your future. It's not about obsessing or over-planning. It's about building direction into your days, like a ship setting its course before the wind catches its sails. Because if you don't choose your direction, the world will choose it for you. Preparation, in its simplest form, is about aligning your actions with your values. It's asking yourself, what matters most tomorrow? What deserves my focus? How do I want to feel when I wake up? These are not complicated questions, but they are powerful. They guide your energy and protect you from drifting. And in today's fast-paced, always connected world, drifting is easy. Purpose is not. You don't need an elaborate system. You don't need an app, a whiteboard, or a motivational coach yelling in your ear. You need a quiet space, a pen, a piece of paper, or maybe just your own voice in the dark saying, "Here's what I'll do tomorrow, and here's why it matters." That's it. That's the seed of preparation. And once planted, it grows. Think of the people you admire, the ones who seem focused, driven, unshakable. They're not superheroes. They're just intentional. They end their days by previewing the next. Athletes visualize their performance. CEOs outline their top priorities. Writers review what they want to create. These aren't luxuries. They're tools. tools to keep them grounded and ready when the world gets noisy. When you prepare with purpose, you send your mind to sleep with a mission. You prime your subconscious to work for you. Studies have shown that when people plan their tasks the night before, their brain begins solving problems before they even wake up. You're not just preparing, you're activating a deeper part of yourself, one that believes in what's possible and starts crafting solutions while you rest. Ava now ends each evening with a 5-minute reset. She reviews what went right, lets go of what didn't, and writes 3 sentences: what she'll do, how she'll do it, and who she'll be while doing it. That's all. But it's changed everything. Her mornings are no longer chaotic. Her energy is calmer. Her life feels deliberate. And it all began the night she decided that tomorrow deserved more than just hope. It deserved a plan. So tonight, take a pause before sleep. Ask yourself, what kind of tomorrow do I want to wake up to? And take one small action that aligns with that answer. Because when you prepare with purpose, you stop surviving your days and start shaping your destiny. Part 5. The Night Routine of High Performers. In the heart of Stockholm, just before midnight, a young architect named Lars gently closes his laptop, stretches his tired shoulders, and lights a single candle on his bedside table. It's a ritual, one he's practiced for over 2 years. He doesn't end his day with emails or TV. Instead, he enters a quiet rhythm, journaling 3 reflections, visualizing his next day, and breathing deeply until his mind softens. To the outside world, it may seem like a simple habit, but for Lars, it's everything. It's how he maintains clarity, focus, and calm amid the pressure of high-stakes projects and endless demands. It's not magic. It's mastery. The kind that's built in the quiet of the night when no one else is watching. This is the untold truth about high performers. They don't just win their mornings, they win their nights. While the world praises the 5 a.m. club, the real transformation often begins the night before. Because how you end your day determines how you begin the next. And those who understand this truth build night routines not for productivity, but for peace, for grounding, for preparation. They see the evening not as a collapse, but as a ceremony. Look at some of the most accomplished people on the planet. Tim Ferriss, author and entrepreneur, reviews his day each night and journals his thoughts to calm his mind. NBA players visualize their performance before game day. CEOs like Arianna Huffington disconnect from technology and create a wind-down ritual to protect their rest. These are not luxuries. They are systems that protect mental clarity, emotional stability, and long-term excellence. Because here's what science tells us. The brain needs rhythm. It needs cues that it's time to shift gears, to release the day's tension, to step away from stress and into recovery. A night routine provides that rhythm. Without it, the brain stays alert, restless, caught in the swirl of to-dos and unfinished business. That's why so many people lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, exhausted, but unable to rest. Their body is still in the fight. Their mind is still in the game. They never created a boundary between doing and being. But a night routine isn't about perfection. It's not about rigid steps or checking boxes. It's about intention. It could be as simple as 5 minutes of reflection, a warm shower, a short walk outside, or turning off your phone and sipping tea in silence. What matters is that the action tells your mind, it's okay to let go now. You've done enough. Let's prepare to begin again. Let's go back to Lars. His routine didn't begin with candles and calm. It began after burnout. He was pulling late nights, stressed, losing sleep, snapping at friends. One night, after a panic attack that left him trembling on the kitchen floor, he knew something had to change. He didn't overhaul his life. He changed his evenings, one habit at a time, a gratitude list, then visualization, then quiet time before bed. Within weeks, his sleep improved. His mornings became steady. His performance skyrocketed. Not because he pushed harder, but because he recovered smarter. Your night routine is your closing ceremony. It's the moment you honor your effort, release what didn't serve you, and choose peace over pressure. And when done consistently, it transforms how you carry yourself. You wake up not in chaos, but in clarity. Not in fear, but in focus. You move through your days with energy, not because you have less stress, but because you've created space to hold it. So tonight, don't just fall asleep. Enter your rest. Step into it. Build a ritual that signals to your mind that you're safe, that you've done well, and that tomorrow will be met with intention. Whether it's a journal, a meditation, a moment of stillness, or simply closing your eyes with gratitude, do it with purpose. Because the people who perform at their highest don't run on caffeine and chaos. They run on recovery, on preparation, on nighttime rituals that the world never sees, but that silently build the strength to rise again tomorrow. Part 6. Progress over perfection. The power of daily growth. In a small studio apartment in Berlin, Leo sat staring at a blank page in his journal. He had promised himself he'd write something every night, something reflective, something honest. But tonight, his mind echoed with a single bitter thought. I didn't do enough today. He had meant to finish a design project, but didn't. He had planned to call his mother, but forgot. He'd skipped the gym, snapped at a friend, and now felt like the entire day was wasted. That's when a line he had once read surfaced in his mind. You're not trying to be perfect. You're trying to grow. It stopped him cold. Maybe, just maybe, today didn't need to be perfect to matter. This is the truth so many of us forget. Perfection is a myth. It's a moving target, a standard no one ever consistently meets. But progress is real, tangible, reachable. And when pursued with heart, it compounds into greatness over time. Yet we live in a world addicted to instant results. We want the transformation without the journey, the outcome without the effort. And when we fall short of those unrealistic ideals, we punish ourselves, discount our progress, and assume we're failing. But here's the shift. True success doesn't come from flawless execution. It comes from daily growth, from showing up even when it's messy, from improving by 1% each day, from understanding that the days you stumble are not wasted, they're working. Because every time you reflect, recenter, and try again, you are building resilience, discipline, and self-respect. Progress isn't always visible in the moment, but it is always moving you forward. Take elite athletes, for example. Their progress isn't judged by a single game. It's the hours of training, the thousands of unseen repetitions, the willingness to review the bad days and come back stronger. Or artists who create hundreds of drafts before their masterpiece. Or entrepreneurs who face failure after failure before finding success. None of them are perfect, but they are persistent. And in the end, persistence outperforms perfection every single time. Let's return to Leo. After sitting with his thoughts, he changed his question. Instead of asking, "What didn't I do?" he asked, "Where did I grow?" The answers surprised him. I learned that I need better boundaries. I realized how much I miss my family. I noticed that when I skip self-care, I lose my center. Those weren't failures. They were insights. That night, he wrote down a new mantra in bold letters. I am not here to be perfect. I am here to evolve. That mindset shift changed everything. Leo no longer measured his days by how much he checked off. He measured them by what he learned, how he showed up, and whether he moved even an inch closer to the person he wanted to be. And that small change gave him a sense of power he hadn't felt in years. This is what we all need to remember. The growth you're after is already happening, in your setbacks, in your reflections, in your efforts to do just a little better than yesterday. And when you anchor your self-worth in progress instead of perfection, you begin to walk through life with a quiet kind of confidence. One that doesn't crumble when things go wrong. One that trusts the process. So tonight, when you review your day, resist the urge to beat yourself up for what wasn't done. Instead, ask, where did I show up? What did I learn? What am I building within myself? Progress is not glamorous. It often looks like repetition, like starting over, like writing the same lesson twice. But over time, those ordinary moments stack up into something extraordinary. You don't need to be perfect to move forward. You need to be honest. You need to be consistent. And you need to believe that every single step, especially the imperfect ones, are shaping the strength, clarity, and character that will define your future. Because in the end, the people who win are not the ones who never fall. They're the ones who review, reset, and rise again and again. Part 7. Turning reflection into a lifelong discipline. In a quiet suburb outside Toronto, 62-year-old Martin had a habit that seemed almost outdated to his family. Every evening, without fail, he'd sit in his armchair, pen in hand, and write in an old leather-bound journal. He didn't use social media. He didn't track his steps or time his productivity. But what Martin had was something few people possessed: clarity, wisdom, peace. When asked by his grandson what he was always writing, Martin replied with a smile, just lessons from the day, wins, mistakes, what to remember and what to leave behind. It wasn't flashy, but it was powerful. Because over the years, those little reflections became a map of his life. A map that helped him navigate storms, cherish joy, and become a man others quietly admired. Reflection, when practiced consistently, becomes more than a habit. It becomes a way of living. It becomes your internal compass. While the world shouts for urgency, success, and speed, reflection teaches you to slow down, to realign, and to live with intention. It teaches you that growth isn't just something you chase, it's something you notice. And when you make space every day to review your wins and prepare for tomorrow, you build a personal discipline that becomes your superpower. Most people start reflection as a reaction. Burnout hits, life feels directionless, motivation disappears. They look for something to ground them, and they find this practice. But those who truly grow are the ones who stick with it long after the crisis has passed. They don't review and plan just when things are hard. They do it when things are good, when things are neutral, when the days feel ordinary. That's the discipline. That's the edge. Discipline is often misunderstood. It's not rigid. It's not punishment. It's freedom earned through commitment. And reflection is one of the most liberating forms of discipline there is. Because when you consistently make space to look inward, you become immune to the chaos outside. You stop getting swept away by noise, comparison, and pressure. You stay rooted in what matters to you. That's the gift of reflection. It returns you to yourself. Let's be honest, not every night will feel inspiring. There will be days where nothing seems worth writing, days where failure echoes louder than any win. But even on those nights, the practice still matters. It's not about perfect insight, it's about consistent presence. It's about saying to yourself, I am here, I am paying attention, I am still in this fight. In Tokyo, a young violinist named Keiko began keeping a growth log after being rejected from a prestigious orchestra. Every night she wrote one thing she did better than yesterday. One note held longer, one phrase played cleaner. It didn't make the pain disappear, but it gave her direction. Within a year, she didn't just land a spot in the orchestra, she became one of its youngest section leaders. Not because of one dramatic breakthrough, but because of disciplined, daily reflection. Wherever you are, in Paris, Chicago, Dhaka, or Cape Town, this discipline is available to you. You don't need a mentor in your pocket or a perfect plan. You need a willingness to reflect, even when it feels small. You need a few quiet minutes, a question or two, and the courage to be honest with yourself. That's all. But done consistently, that becomes transformation. So ask yourself every night, what did I do well today? What did I learn? How can I grow tomorrow? Don't just wait for life to teach you through hard lessons. Teach yourself through awareness. That's what makes the difference between those who wander and those who rise. In the end, Martin's journals became a family treasure, not because they were filled with dramatic stories, but because they were real. They were human. They showed that greatness isn't found in moments of glory, but in the decision to review, learn, and prepare, one day at a time. And you can do the same, because when you turn reflection into a discipline, you're not just changing your day, you're changing the entire trajectory of your life. As the sun sets and the world slows, you find yourself at a crossroads. The day behind you is a collection of moments, some triumphant, others challenging, but all part of your unique journey. How you choose to honor these moments will shape the life you lead tomorrow. The act of reviewing your wins and preparing for tomorrow is not just a habit. It is a declaration, a powerful statement to yourself that your life matters, that your effort counts, and that your future is worth shaping. Imagine what it feels like to close your eyes each night with a heart full of gratitude for what you accomplished, even the small victories that often go unnoticed. To lay your head down knowing you have paused long enough to recognize your own strength, resilience, and growth. This is the foundation of true confidence, not the kind built on external validation or fleeting success, but the deep, unshakable belief forged through honest reflection. Reviewing your wins rewires your brain, rewrites your story, and renews your spirit. It teaches you to see progress in places you once overlooked and invites you to celebrate yourself in ways that empower you rather than diminish your light. When you make this a daily practice, it becomes a lighthouse in the storms of life, guiding you back to your true self when doubts creep in, when setbacks occur, when fatigue threatens to consume your dreams. Preparing for tomorrow with intention is the other side of this coin. It is your way of saying, I am not a victim of my circumstances. I am the author of my story. When you end your day by setting a purposeful plan, no matter how simple, you ignite a spark that carries you forward. You send your mind into rest, knowing it has a clear mission awaiting you. Your subconscious begins to work on solutions, and you wake up ready. Not overwhelmed, not reactive, but focused and grounded. Across the USA, UK, Europe, and around the world, People who choose to review their wins and prepare for tomorrow build momentum that compounds quietly but powerfully. They learn that success is not a lightning strike. It's a slow burn, a process of showing up, reflecting, adjusting, and rising again. They understand that the greatest victories are not trophies on a shelf, but the moments when they chose persistence over despair, hope over fear, and action over stagnation. You are capable of this too. The practice is simple, but its impact is profound. It doesn't require more time or perfect conditions. It requires commitment, a promise to yourself that no matter how the day unfolded, you will stop and recognize your growth, that you will plan with clarity and courage, that you will believe even when it's hard, that every step forward is a step toward the life you deserve. So tonight, as the quiet envelops you, remember this: your wins matter, your tomorrow matters, and the power to change your life lies not in grand gestures, but in the small, consistent choices you make each evening. Choose to reflect, choose to prepare, choose to honor the incredible person you are becoming. Because when you do, you don't just survive your days, you transform them. You don't just hope for a better future, you build it, one intentional night at a time. And in that sacred process, you unlock a life of purpose, passion, and unstoppable momentum. Your journey is yours to write. Begin tonight.